All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. As always, I'm your host, Adam Smith, with Just the Tips Coaching. And with us again, as always, is our marketing director, one of our other sales coaches, Jen Waybor. Hey, Jen.
Hi, Adam.
How was your trip?
It was exhausting, but a good time.
Weekend in New Mexico.
Yeah,
Very
after a
cool.
concert Friday night in Denver. So it was,
After a concert Friday night in Denver, that's a
yeah,
quick turnaround. All right,
yeah, it was
and
a good time.
we've got a really cool guest today. We've got a repeat guest today, and our guest has had some fairly monumental shifts in his career since the last time he was on the show. So we thought that it would be a really good timing to have him on and discuss some of these things. So welcome back, Jacob Mueller. Hey, Jacob.
Hey, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, on top of some monumental career advances, your beard is following suit as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Most of our audience is listening to the podcast and not actually watching the video cast. If that's you and you want to go see Jacob's epic beard, you can catch us on all the social media platforms and go check that out. So, Jacob, welcome back. We're glad to have you on. You've made some advancements in your career since we've had you on the show. You left Atlas, started your own firm. Really cool stuff. And you guys have kind of taken on an additional workload with a lot of short-term rental management.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, tell us about that, because it must be chaos. I have some short-term rentals. Jen knows. She's even used one. We've got a cabin in the mountains in Colorado that she's been to a couple of times, I think. And yeah, my wife and I manage it all ourselves, and it is a lot. It's a lot with only a handful of doors. And you guys are managing how many?
We're currently at about 72.
Wow. And you could be dealing with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 guests every month at every door.
Oh, but yeah, more than that. Yeah, I mean, like even on maybe what's today? Monday? Yesterday, we probably had 52 guests checking out.
In a day.
In a day, yes,
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, we've got one coming in for an entire month of October at one of our properties.
Nice.
And we're like so grateful. Yeah, we gave her a big discount. We're like, yeah, absolutely. To know that we don't have to deal with all the turnover over the course of that month is really, really spectacular. So tell us how this all came to pass. How did you get started? You've got some people on your team. Give us the rundown, man.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been investing in short-term rentals like you, Adam, for a little while. I didn't take it super aggressively. You know, I'm a long-term rental investor mostly. That's what I kind of grew up in. But I had a couple of short-term rentals, and through my brokerage activities, I've met some really interesting guys who were doing this like big-time Airbnb. And I started learning a little bit about what they were doing as clients. I was just helping them buy property. I was just their agent. And I saw some of the cool things they were doing. I was like, wow, I feel like there's a big opportunity here. And so we all kind of had grown our own separate little Airbnb businesses. So each of us had, 5 to 8 listings. And one day we were just kind of hanging out and we're like, why are we doing this all separately? Like we could combine all of these things and make it way more efficient, achieve some economies of scale. Decided to do that back in October. Like I said, October of 21. I was still working for Atlas at the time. I was the regional manager for them in Colorado Springs, had a team of 4 or 5 people. So anyway, I was doing that, but I had these rentals. We decided to form this company. As we built this company, we're like, hey, I wonder if other people would find value in this. Maybe we should just bring on a few people, talk to a few people, see if they're interested. And so we started talking to some people in our networks, finding out if they'd be interested in having it managed. And we found out there was actually quite a bit of interest. And so we onboarded our first property management client in January of 2022. And it was then that I realized, if we're managing people's property, we probably should have an employing brokerage license. In the state of Colorado, you have to have a license to manage real estate for other people, just like you have to have a license to be a loan originator, like you are, Adam. And so I decided at that point in January, I'm like, I gotta quit Atlas. I gotta do this thing full time. So I quit Atlas in March, became the employing broker for our company, which is called Renjoy, Rentals You Enjoy. And we started growing that company. Right now I have 2 other agents doing the brokerage side, mostly investing, house hacking, kind of helping people break into the real estate market. And then on the property management side, we have 6 or 7 full-time employees and about 45 contractors. So we've been growing really fast. There's a big opportunity, and it's been really exciting.
Why is it a big opportunity? Give us some background from the consumer perspective. Why is this something I should be doing? And let's not even consider it the consumer perspective, because I do think that a lot of people in real estate, a lot of people in mortgages do a lot of this kind of stuff. Jen and I run in circles where, real estate investing is obviously a very big deal. For people that aren't doing it or want to break into it, what should they be doing? How should they be going about it? What are some of the pitfalls? I mean, you've probably got a Scared Straight program, certainly with all the contractors and so on and so forth. Help us out. What should we be doing? What should we not be doing?
Well, I heard about 10 questions in there, so I might have to parse that out a little bit.
All right. We're going to run out of time.
Yeah, we are. There's so much to talk here. So first of all, what I would say is from our side, the opportunity is that Airbnb has kind of been the wild, wild west of vacation rentals. Like there's been people running around managing other people's properties and not doing a good job. And what we've learned is that there's professional management is moving into the space. People who actually know what they're doing, have good systems, are licensed for one. It's amazing how many property managers out there who aren't licensed. So that's a big opportunity that we're seeing, the professionalization of the industry. If you're a consumer and you're thinking about buying real estate, the reason you should buy a vacation rental, I mean, it's really going to depend on everybody's situation. Like Adam, you mentioned you have a cabin in Colorado, right? How often do you use that cabin yourself?
I don't know, maybe half a dozen times a year.
That's pretty good. So how many nights total then? 2 nights each time, 4 nights each time?
Yeah, between 2 and 4, I would say is realistic. So maybe 30 a year, somewhere in that range.
Okay, awesome. And how much do you pay out of pocket to use that cabin?
My lodging expense is $0.
Is it even negative? In other words, do you get paid to stay at your cabin?
That cabin broke into the black this year in June.
Awesome. Halfway through the year.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So what I'm getting at is you as a consumer have an opportunity to buy these second home properties, these investment properties, use them yourselves to do the thing that you love. For Adam, it's, having a cabin, but for you, it may be a place on the beach. It may be somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. Oh, well, they do the beach too.
We did that one too. Yep.
Yeah, perfect. You can go from one to the other.
We do. We spent most of July at our beach house.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's a perfect example of like you can have a lifestyle that's afforded by other people paying for your property. They're paying for your mortgage. They're paying for your own stay. And in fact, you should be profitable on any Airbnb property you have. And if you're not, you're probably not doing it quite right. And so it allows you to buy property, stay places for free, and have a lifestyle that you might not otherwise be able to have.
Okay. So I'm not going to lie, because I do think that that's an important piece of the puzzle. I want to make it clear to you, to our audience, that our motivations, one of the primary ones for acquiring short-term rental properties was selfish. These are properties that we want to use. These are properties that we will use more frequently in retirement. I don't have a condo in Denver. I don't need a condo in Denver. I'm not going to stay there. Right. And no, don't get me wrong. I think owning a property in the Denver city limits that you have on Airbnb is ridiculously good move. Very profitable. I had a buddy come into town. Steve is probably a regular viewer. He needed a place to stay. I said, let's hop on Airbnb. Let's look in the Denver city limits. He wanted to be anywhere really between the airport and Red Rocks. He was going to see a show at Red Rocks. That's out on the west side of town for those of you that aren't in our immediate area. And so I looked in just the Denver city limits. There were 8 available that fit his criteria, 2-bedroom and up. 4 of them were in 5 Points. Now, granted, this is a regentrifying area. I don't have anything bad to say about 5 Points, not like it was 20 years ago. Back then, even I was scared in 5 Points, no question. And I wasn't smart enough to know that I should be scared. So there were 4 potential properties available, and it was not inexpensive. His 2-night stay or whatever it was in the hundreds upon hundreds of dollars range. And if somebody's doing that 10, 20 nights a month on those particular properties, they are way ahead of the game. So our motives are a little more selfish than that. and we do spend quite a bit of time at them. No question. But to be perfectly honest, we had just kind of been looking at a specific formula when it came to price point, when it came to popularity, what's going to draw somebody to that Airbnb. And we were really, really, how do I put this? I don't want to say finicky, but we looked with a really sharp eye at real estate listing photos because I could tell if it was somebody's vacation home or if it was an Airbnb. There's no personal shit in there, no clothes, no family photos, those kinds of things. So on every one of these, I've negotiated in all the furniture, electronics, dishware, on and on. I mean, we've had to buy a set of silverware. We've had to buy some linens, that kind of thing. But we've negotiated all of that property, and our beach house came with a golf cart.
That's awesome.
Right. So we've been, very, very cognizant of looking at the actual real estate photos to determine whether or not we're buying a property where we could or could not negotiate in all of that personal property.
That's super clever.
And so that was one of furnishing a house is not cheap or easy.
No, it is not. It's a lot. It's a big expense. People oftentimes, when they come to me and they say, hey, I want to open a short-term rental, one of my first questions is, are you taking over an existing one like you did, Adam, or are you going to create a new one? Because to create a new one is a huge capital expenditure up front.
Yep.
And lots of people don't realize, because, when you move, you add things and you get rid of things. And like over time, you accumulate all the things in your life, in your house that you use, but you don't really consider what it's like to buy all of those things at once for one unit or multiple units. Again,
right.
Yeah, it can be, if you're buying a duplex, now you have to do it twice.
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable how much that can add up, and people often don't comprehend that cost.
I think one of the greatest tips I've heard and used is IKEA and TaskRabbit.
Yeah, you can do that.
Order it all online, have it shipped there, and hire a TaskRabbit to go assemble it all.
Yep, you can definitely do that.
But yeah, so for the most part, what you're seeing in the acquisition space is people are buying vacant property.
Oftentimes, yes. So when we are looking at property management, we probably see about half come from new acquisitions, vacant property, like you said. It's pretty rare that somebody's buying an actively listed and legal short-term rental. It's pretty rare that people are selling those in our markets. Now, where it's in a more established vacation rental market, like on a beach or in the mountains, it's going to be far more common. But if you're in a less, what I would call a primary, if you're in a secondary market, not a primary market, there's very few of these short-term rentals changing hands. So when somebody buys an investment property, they typically are making it into a short-term rental. And there's a whole bunch of different things you have to do in your process to make sure that that's done correctly.
And I think you touched on a really important piece of the puzzle. There is a lot of work to be considered in the legality of it. Obviously, our beach house, it is a short-term rental area. It is a vacation area. No headaches there. The property we have in Colorado, the county requires a short-term rental permit. This is Custer County. And we had to have fire evacuation plan drafted, and the fire extinguishers have to be inspected every year, these kinds of things. So there are a lot of things to consider like that, yes?
Absolutely. Well, and you mentioned your buddy's place in the Denver proper
Well, he stayed
area.
there, but yeah.
He stayed there, sure. But the individual who owns that listing is going to do very well over the long term, because when you have regulation that gets put into place, typically they cap the total number of short-term rentals, or they make it difficult to add new ones. So you have a constraint on your supply of short-term rental permits, where demand is continuing to increase. What does that do? Generates higher prices, which generate what? Higher profits. And so one of the reasons why this industry is so interesting, and why I think there's a lot of value to be captured, is because of regulation. It has a governmental or bureaucratic constraint on supply that doesn't exist in a lot of ways in a lot of places.
Interesting. And obviously Denver is one of those.
Yes, Denver has well, I don't know if that's true. Denver has, if not the most strict, some very strict short-term rental laws. I mean, they've literally put people in jail over illegal short-term rentals, which is kind of startling. Yeah, 2 people went to jail last year in 2021.
Well, That's kind of a short-term rental if you look at it.
That's right. Yeah. Hey, you don't even have to pay rent though. Actually.
Well, eventually you're gonna end up paying the rent on it. Yeah, but yeah, that's kind of typical. Jen, you do a ton of traveling, and I am guessing some of your lodging is short-term rental.
Oh yeah, stayed in
From
an
the-
adorable one in Albuquerque this weekend.
Okay, great example. And what were some of the highlights? Were there any lowlights?
There was a hot tub, private hot tub,
Wow.
just for it looked like they had converted a garage into this little casita, as they called it. It was a little 1 bedroom. It was perfect for the two of us for a night, but had a little kind of yard, not really because it was converted, but big enough for a small hot tub, and a hammock. And private parking was huge was to have parking available where we could get the car off the street. There was even a little fence because there's areas that were not that great in Albuquerque that we found. So it was nice that I felt like my car was safe. I felt like we were safe. I would say the only low light was they had a key box that you had to put in a code, but it wasn't electronic at all. And I felt like I could have broken into it pretty easily. So I feel like anyone could have. It was pretty antiquated. But other than that, I mean, it wasn't overly stocked, but if we had been there long enough to cook, then there was plenty of pots and pans. There was a washer dryer. That's always nice. The air conditioning worked. It was,
Yeah,
100 degrees outside, so that's always good. But the hot tub I'm actually looking for a short-term rental to do like a little women's weekend wellness thing next spring. And the biggest thing I'm looking for is somewhere that's got a private hot tub. Like that's just kind of an extra layer of relaxation. I mean, I don't take a lot of weekends off, so that was really nice even at 1 o'clock in the morning to use the hot tub.
Oh, so much maintenance on it from my perspective.
Right.
Yeah, I don't even want grass, right? Our short-term rentals don't have any landscaping whatsoever. Naturally wooded area, HOA managed, whatever the concrete, just slabs and slabs of concrete, whatever the case may be. So yeah, what did that run you?
We paid $112, including all the fees for the night.
The cleaning fee?
Everything. It was $112
What?
total. I got a steal, you guys. I am pretty good at finding really affordable, good Airbnb.
That was on a Saturday. That was on a Saturday night.
Saturday night in downtown Albuquerque for $112.
Interesting.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they definitely could be charging more for this place. It was cute.
Okay. So Jacob, I've personally, and certainly with some of our mortgage clients, we've seen a fairly monumental shift this year. So in 2021, we saw obviously a lot of short-term rental properties being acquired, a lot of investment properties being acquired, STR and LTR. And one of the big shifts in our side of the industry that occurred is that the Federal Housing Finance Authority basically kind of slid in a 2-point hit, give or take, on second homes and investment properties. So you're really not even getting aggressive on a mortgage until you're putting a quarter down, 25%. And in 20 and 21, a short-term rental, a second home, which you could use as short-term rental. Second home, for those of you that don't know, means you're going to use it 30 nights a year. That's what defines a second home. You could do it with 10% down and a rate in the 2s. Now, and granted, rates have come down a bit after a couple of Fed meetings, you're probably at 25% down with a rate in the 5s. So there's got to be some kind of impact to how people are looking at it, what the cash flow is, how wise the investment is, those kinds of things. And don't get me wrong, the real estate market is still going like gangbusters. We may not see 20 or 25% returns year over year in the coming years, but hell, if it's only 10 or 15, I'll take my 10% return instead of 13 if the interest rates have gone up. Fine, whatever the case may be. But have you seen a shift in that? Has it seemed to have and don't get me wrong, I know the feds did it in an effort to try and free things up a little bit for the owner occupant.
Sure.
Obviously, a housing shortage is what it is. There isn't a damn thing out there that we're going to be able to do, not one thing that's going to have an impact on the housing shortage. I get the motivation, and I think like most things government, the motivation is pure and the execution is crap.
Yep.
And I see that there's a major housing shortage, and I see that we want to help owner occupants obtain places to live. This isn't obviously the way to go about it, but has it had an impact on what you're seeing when it comes to people acquiring second homes, vacation rentals, long-term rentals, because you're probably still managing a bunch of those?
Yeah,
Has
so
it shifted?
It's a good question. Actually, for us, and to be clear, I'm not really boots on the ground anymore. I'm not brokering deals. I'm running a company, and I've got agents who are boots on the ground, and we meet all the time. I'm still in charge of sales, but to be honest, our brokerage is actually doing pretty well. So we haven't seen a huge reduction in demand. What it has done, Adam, is it's limited how far your cash can go, right? Of course, if you're putting more down, that's the big question mark. It's not the interest rates that are really driving it. It has more to do with the amount of money that can be borrowed. And so that's like where we would have a client, let's say a year ago, we'd have a client who would have $100,000. They'd go out and buy 2-3 properties.
Sure.
And they would use these lower down payment programs. They'd find different ways. They'd house hack one, not the other, et cetera. Whereas today, they'd be able to buy one property. So we're starting to see that happen a little bit more. Regarding the return, though, I mean, we don't touch deals that are less than a 20% cash on cash return. And so everything we're doing is 20% or above. And all of our clients, same goes for them as well.
Okay. I think that's a really good rule. And along those lines, typically what we look for, and historically what was actually required in investment, this is relatively new to the residential world, although it existed heavily in the commercial world for decades, is what we refer to as a debt service ratio of 125. So we're looking for a 25% margin, 25% above your holding costs, and 20, I guess it depends on the property. I mean, if it's a property with a fucking hot tub, sorry, Jen, but if I've got to maintain a hot tub, 20 might not be. If I've got a pool, if I've got major landscaping, whatever the case may be, and I see properties. God, we rented one in Anaheim for a dozen people to take a family trip to Disneyland. 8 bedrooms, pool, hot tub, sunroom. I mean, it was beautiful, beautiful property, but the maintenance costs, the holding costs, the management costs were probably through the roof.
Yeah,
that's
generally,
making
Adam,
me think my margin's got to be better.
Yeah, and it is. I mean, when I say cash on cash, I'm talking about all of the cash invested to take a vacant property to turn it into a short-term rental. So that can include adding a hot tub. So your initial CapEx of adding a hot tub. Let's say you buy a property, $400,000, put $100,000 down, put another $50,000 to $65,000 in. So your cash invested is $150,000 to $165,000. We're talking about a 20% return on that $160,000, $165,000.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So when I say cash on cash return, I'm talking about for the investor, total cash invested, total cash return on an annual basis. So that year, your first full 12 months of operations, you should see checks of about, what is that? 10% would be 15,000. You should receive about 30,000 in income every year to service your debt, 30 to 40,000. And that includes professional property management. So that when we're looking at deals, the interest rates don't matter so much. It has more to do with, do you have enough cash to execute a short-term rental deal? That's the biggest constraint we're running into now.
Okay. And I think that that's one of the big shifts. And don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I would agree.
Lending guidelines didn't change. It's literally just the difference between putting 10% down and getting a rate that could be 6.5%, or putting 25% down and getting into an arena where it's going to actually be competitive and make good financial sense. So yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense. So what does the next year look like? I mean, it's been a year plus since we've had you on the show. Probably going to be a year plus since we get you back. We're going to try, certainly. Jen's nodding yes, please.
Oh, no, November of 23 is when.
Perfect.
And Jen will have stayed in a dozen short-term rentals by then. And actually, I do have one more question before we get into what the future is going to hold for Jacob. Airbnb versus VRBO?
It depends on market. Right.
Okay.
So they each kind of have their own flavor. They each have their own purpose. We think of it more of just eyeballs. We want as many eyeballs on our listings as possible. But in our market, it's primarily Airbnb.
Okay. So I want to make it clear to everybody that that's because you have systems and tech and all kinds of things put in place, because you're, like you said before we went live, managing 100 doors in the short-term rental space is really like managing 1,000.
Yeah.
Right. So that's a big deal. So for me, trying to manage a few of them, I like Airbnb's tech better than VRBO. We should know that Airbnb takes a smaller cut, 3% versus 8%. We use both, but I really prefer Airbnb from the owner side, from the owner-manager side.
If I were in your shoes, or if I were a homeowner who's got 1 or 2 listings, I would only use one platform, and I would pick Airbnb.
We do have them on VRBO, but we do jack the cost way up.
Sure, and you can. I just, for me, for simplicity's sake, I would be on a single platform. And there's software that makes it easy to do both, and it's not a big deal, et cetera, et cetera. I switched before I started this company. I had it just on Airbnb. I moved my 4 listings or whatever to both. I had so many issues and problems that I just wasn't willing to resolve and go through the time to build new systems that I just took it off. It wasn't worth the additional 1 to 2 bookings a month on VRBO versus the 10 to 20 I was getting on Airbnb. It just wasn't worth the extra. But
I think we'd feel the same way.
Yeah, tech is improving though. I mean, it's definitely improving, so it makes it a lot easier.
Okay. All right. So tell us about the next year plus. You're going to grow your team. You're going to grow your doors that you're managing. Are we going to shy away from long-term rentals? I should probably mention that another big piece of the puzzle for us when we started looking at short-term rentals versus long-term rentals was the rent moratorium. That was a big deal early on in the pandemic. Now, granted, what long-term rental income we had, we did get our long-term renters paid their bills, but not everybody did. I've still got mortgages to pay on those properties, so that was a concern. With a short-term rental, the minute they go in the door, I've got my money.
Yeah,
in essence.
Yeah, I'm a believer in doing both. I had some tenants not pay rent when the moratorium was in place. It was very frustrating. It was very difficult. It was a pain to work with the government to try to step in and make sure our mortgages were handled, but it worked out okay. It was just a pain. There are benefits to short-term rentals. There are downsides too. So there's lots of things that are involved in both. And so I'm not sure that one is superior to the other. I'm definitely not moving one more towards one or the other. I'm just moving to what deal makes sense that's in front of me. Yeah.
Strictly about the dollars.
That's right. It's about the ROI and the risk, right? You have to do a risk-adjusted return. So even though these short-term rentals are earning 20% cash on cash, that sounds amazing, right? It sounds awesome. Well, there's greater risk, right? So it's your risk-adjusted return that you have to account for.
I would say that that's true. That makes a lot of sense to me. One of the comments I get frequently, which I find very funny as well, there's less wear and tear on a short-term rental, right?
That's crazy.
No, absolutely not.
That's absolutely crazy.
Maybe the opposite, in fact.
Well, one thing that is different is that deferred maintenance doesn't occur if you have your right systems in place. So with short-term rentals, because you have somebody on your team has eyeballs on the property at least every week, right, your deferred maintenance goes way, way, way down. And if you ever have an issue, you find out right away. You have to fix it right away. You don't have a choice. Like long-term rental tenant says, "Hey, my AC is broken." It's like, we'll get to it in 2 weeks. You know, assuming it's not crazy hot, unless
it's not a problem in December.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so with a short-term rental, it's like, oh no, I need to get that solved today, right? Like I need to do that today. Otherwise, I have to refund this person, which is in long-term rentals, your biggest cost is vacancy. In short-term rentals, your biggest cost is refunds. And so you want to do everything you can possible not to refund folks, and you just solve problems. To answer your question though, Adam, like what's in the future? I would love to share like our goals. I mean, our plan at Renjoy is to distribute over 200 million in passive income over the next 10 years. And we want to have over 1,000 owners who we're working with as well over the next 10 years. And I think this time next year, we'll probably be about 250, 300 listings. And we'll be going gangbusters, multiple markets, multiple states.
That is fantastic. All right. Obviously, we both know a ton of people that are doing this short-term rental model, and they could probably use your help. How do they find you?
Yeah, just renjoy.com. Pretty easy.
I put it in the comments already.
Yeah.
Look at Jen screaming. All right.
On top of it.
Jen, what else do you want to know from Jacob? Because, yes, I see you're not, and I know we've already blown through half an hour. I don't know how that happened.
It went by really quick.
Yeah.
No, this is so cool. We get a lot of guests that are like, my things have shifted in the last year, but it's not normally that they've shifted this far. It's normally like, I changed companies and I'm doing the same thing. So no, this has been great. And the insight is awesome. And I think it's great content. It's great, different content. We don't talk to a lot of people in this world very often on the show. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome to be here and to talk to you guys.
Yeah, we'll absolutely book a third episode with you here sometime next year. Jen, what else do you want our audience to know? I know you want to talk about the mastermind.
Yes, Mile High Mastermind is a month from tomorrow. A month from tomorrow. So the 6th annual, can't believe it's the 6th.
Wow.
Mile High Mastermind is September 16th and 17th at the University of Denver. We're doing things a little different this year. I'm excited. We have some panels that we're going to be doing. I'm going to walk people through Meta's business suite, which I think is a huge asset to all business owners. If you're not using it, you should be. If you need to know how to learn it, know how to use it, come to the event and learn how to use it. We have a really cool social event planned for Friday night. I'm sure we're going to find something awesome for Saturday night too. You can get tickets. You can find that link by texting tips to 63566 or message Adam or myself and we'll send you the link. But again, that's only a month from tomorrow, which I can't believe we're halfway through August already. But also at that link, you can get past episodes of the show. You can find our weekly little tip. You can book a free hour of coaching with us, get a copy of Adam's book, which Phoebe is sleeping on right now, so I'm not gonna wake her up. Sorry.
I'm surprised we didn't see any animals from your place today.
Yeah, that's kind of odd.
You'll have to go check that they're all there.
Yeah, they're all mad at me for being gone for one night. So, but yeah, so text tips to 63566 to find out all the things about us, but especially to grab your tickets for the Mile High Mastermind, which is September 16 and 17.
Wow. Well, thank you. And we do still have tickets available, obviously.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good. And Jacob, thank you. I know it's hard to carve this kind of time out on a Monday morning. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Yeah, likewise. Thanks for having me.
You bet. For everybody else, if you want to catch us live, it's 10:30 Monday morning Mountain Time. And we'll probably be back next week with another episode of How I Met Your Mortgage. Until then, you guys take care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.